Good evening, YouTube. Stanley Pacion. Corporal. Corporal. He saw time. He saw 30 seconds. He saw temporal instant. He saw the spin, the vortex, the end point. The whirl we're at all disappeared. No fiction. No imaginary construct. The vanishing, the event plane was real, the same as any other object in existence. He was turning the corner into the living room when he noticed the couch had become clear light, transparent, a configuration of lines, blue lines on white background, and at the bottom, on the right-hand corner, a line rectangular box spelled out, blanks to be composed at a later time. They read, name, address, and project title. A corporal seemed to slip into a more familiar space. He lay upon the bed on his back. He sat up. He bent forwards and grasped his toes. He was smarting. He was hurting all over. He suffered. It seemed every muscle, every joint ached. My, what a plethora of subjects crossed his mind. Corporal. He saw every crack and crevice of heaven. He rolled up, brought his knees to chest, and then white light. He caught such gigantic power. That night he broke the bubble and went beyond. He went way beyond the stars. He walked a field. The wheat had grown up to his waist. He ran full speed, and he could see himself. He could see himself, stark, dark figure in the distance. While he ran breakneck towards the horizon of black and yellow checkerboard colored sky. It was at this moment he turned to ask her. Their clothes were scattered throughout the parlor. It was late night, and a view of lower Manhattan lights, the buildings, street lamps, and bridges burned. Out the window, the illumination awesome. Out the window view from the 25th floor of the high rise. He asked how it had been for her. Corporal wondered because they had never left the front room couch. And the sadness of re-entry. Earth's gravity began to exert its heavy hold. And she, adopting chapter and verse from the good Dr. Leary's work, she replied, 1,000 times better it was. 1,000 times better? Corporal queried. Their clothes were scattered throughout the parlor. Corporal flashed in Technicolor, a motion picture screen. It occupied the theater before his eyes. The hall of the movie house appeared vast. It had 3 long, downslope aisles which parted rows and rows of upholstered seats. When Corporal turned his gaze upward, he saw a fretted vault with giant chandeliers whose crystals seemed to float impossibly down from way, way up atop the hollow of the structure. At the cinema's front, a long, flat-board stage ran below the drop of the great silver screen. The stage had a trough for footlights, and thick purple velvet curtains themselves, a match to the fabric and color of the theater's upholstered cushions. The curtain was parted, then gathered, draped, one to each side of the stage's width. The movie house hosted an orchestra pit. A short, shiny marble wall, and upon it was mounted a low brass post and rail. This wall and fence separated the pit from where the audience sat. Elsewhere, as he considered what lay before him, Corporal discerned ornate blocks and floral leafy rosettes carved in high relief. Bright light, On and off splashes emanating from the aperture in the projectionist booth accented the luxury of the antique setting, highlighted the palace-like details, the decorative elements of the theater's interior design. Corporal was stunned by the back and forth of the lights. He lapsed. It was as if he had time machine transport. He saw workshop studios, the tables and tools of long ago, men who wore aprons. He bore witness to the labor of yesteryear, industry beyond narrow focus of bottom line. He lamented how terrible the cost of greed. He lamented how terrible the cost of greed. That new notions, corporate profit priority had replaced the love and regard for handmade things. His mind ran as a freight train from town to town, and when it slowed to heed the road level crossings, Corporal saddened over the depopulated stores. He saw towns and ghost people walking the sidewalks. The sight of an old girlfriend sitting on a bench in an empty public square unsettled him. The thought occurred. He wondered whether had big box merchants reduced the work of America to the stacking of shelves with cardboard cartons. Click, click, click. He heard machines dispensing. Before him loomed an endless row of barcode labels. Corporal refocused his vision. His mind's eye returned to the movie's house's interior. He saw upon the walls fluted columns. They rose from floor to ceiling, and framed between them, between those columns, there were paintings, pictures of deep woods. These painted forest scenes opened upon coves and secret manicured gardens whose waters reflected amorous gods, deities at sport, who played at love with mythical creatures. And then, in a moment, when his eyes returned to the feature, the show that ran upon the silver screen, he realized the film playing was a cartoon. At first he thought, yes, Popeye, but no, olive oil was not there. Instead he saw white-hot blonde with long, curly tresses bouncing from her shoulders. These were full-action figures. Then he realized the cartoon characters who animated the screen. They were he and she. They were locked in impossible embrace. Corporal heard the music score. Wham, bam. He checked. He reached behind his torso, touched his back. He had to feel with his fingers. Otherwise, how could he have known? Did the joints of his spine still stay in place? He wondered whether contortionists on view, a dream, or was it third-person glimpse? The camera's true capture, the hours previous delight, now projected with vivid light on the screen. All the animation and color before him. He mulled it over. He was trying to discern what was real, what was not. And then he fell to warm, all over pleasant body heat, and he heard what he knew was the voice of the Lord. Eagle, eagle, arise. Why sleep now? It is dawn, and eat and drink, and all the eagles wait to watch you. Lord, Lord, Corporal whispered, all that you have put upon me. I know these things are good. Haven't I been promised them since youth? And she, her face no more than an inch away from his, they were still upon the couch in the parlor. She sighed. and responded again to his erstwhile query. "It was 1,000 times better," she said. Corporal ran. He ran breakneck towards the horizon. It was late night, and a view of lower Manhattan lights, the buildings, street lamps, and bridges burned out of the window. The illumination, awesome, out the window view from the 25th floor of the high rise.